Hi, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about another seminal American text that, in my opinion, really will give you a good overview of some of the conflicts that have happened in America in the past that I think are still really relevant today. This one is What to the Slave is the 4th of July. Sorry, I'm losing internet, so I'm turning it back on. And this one's called What to the Slave is the 4th of July. And it is by Frederick Douglass, who was a former slave and got his freedom, went to the North, and he became a famous anti-slavery activist. And he's speaking before a group of women in Rochester, New York in 1852. So this is about 9 years before the Civil War actually started. So it's a little over 10 years before the end of slavery itself. So keep that in mind. The two things that I want you to do, number one, is I want you to actually read this and annotate it before you watch the rest of this video. So if you've not already read this text through, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. So I want you to go ahead and read and annotate before you watch the rest of the video, because I am going to be keeping you accountable for having done that. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you either have a copy of this. So this is on Classroom, and you can go to File, Make a Copy to make an electronic copy, or you can print it out. Here we go. So the two things I'm going to be focusing on today are, actually three. The importance of rhetorical questions here. That's one of the three. The next thing I'm going to be focusing on is antithesis / juxtaposition. And in some ways, you can use antithesis and juxtaposition interchangeably. And then parallel structure and the power of parallel structure here. So here we go. Douglass starts off by asking a bunch of questions. He says, why am I called upon to speak here today? And this is really, if you think about it, that's really surprising. When someone gets up, this, distinguished speaker who's supposed to be starting off a convention, and he just asks, why am I asked to speak today? What have I, or those I represent, slaves, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of national justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? Am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? So again, this right here is actually irony, and bitter irony is used throughout. And it's not really an official phrase, bitter irony, like in terms of rhetorical devices, but he's using irony to be bitingly sarcastic to draw to his audience's attention things that he believes that they should already know. That, hey, slaves aren't free. Like, why am I here today? To just be like, America's great? Because it's not. So he speaks really sarcastically here. Would to God for both of your sakes and ours that an affirmative answer could truly be returned to these questions. And he's referring up here. So one thing I want you to look at, here is where we have some great examples of antithesis. Then would my task be light and my burden easy and delightful? So that's antithesis. Or kind of paradoxical, actually. We don't expect a burden to be easy and delightful. And here's some antithesis. For who there is so cold that a nation's sympathy could not warm him? Cold versus warm. Who so obdurate means stubborn, and dead to the claims of gratitude, that would not thankfully acknowledge such priceless benefits. So obdurate and dead to thankfully acknowledging. Who so stolid and selfish that would not give his voice to the swell the hallelujah of a nation's jubilee when the chains of servitude had been torn from his limbs? I am not that man. So he uses antithesis to bring their attention to it. And then he says, I'm not the person who, just because I was set free is going to be really thankful. I'm still frustrated because the rest of the slaves are not free. So here's really where the title comes from. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. More antithesis. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. More antithesis, also parallel structure. You may, I must. To drag a man in fetters to the grand illuminated temple of liberty. Antithesis. And call him to join you in joyous anthems were inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today? If so, there is a parallel to your conduct. So this is all biblical allusion. The children of Israel who wept when they remembered their homeland because they were carried away as captives. Again, I'm not saying you have to believe this, but you need to, when you see a biblical allusion, when you see the words Zion, Babylon, yea, we wept, the Lord, that kind of thing, you need to be aware that that's probably a reference to the Bible. And if I were you, I would even Google it. All right. My subject then, fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see to this day American bondman making his wrongs mine. I do not hesitate to declare with all my soul that the character and conduct of this nation never looked blacker to me than on this 4th of July. So again, this is kind of juxtaposition, because you're not supposed to think of the character and conduct of your nation as negative on the 4th of July, the day of freedom. And here's some more rhetorical questions that I think are important. What point in the anti-slavery creed would you have me argue? On what branch of the subject do people of this country need light? Must I undertake to prove that the slave is a man? So the rest of this paragraph, he acknowledges that the vast majority of people, based on the laws, based on the way slaves are treated like people who can think, because they're punished according to laws that they break. And if you're not a person, then you're not punished according to laws, but slaves are. And then in the next paragraph, he starts off by saying, I affirm, I uphold the equal manhood of the Negro race. And then he says, would you have me argue that this man is entitled to liberty? And again, he uses rhetorical questions to get his audience to think, and then he answers the question. And at the end, he says, there is not a man beneath the canopy of heaven that does not know that slavery is wrong for him. So, of course, everyone knows that slaves are entitled to liberty. And then he asks, am I to argue that it is wrong to make men their brutes to rob them of their liberty? No, I will not, because, again, everyone knows that. What arguments remain? And he continues to ask rhetorical questions. And then he says, oh, had I the ability and could I reach the nation's ear? Ooh, I like that personification of the whole nation as just one ear. There's also a rhetorical device for that. I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. I like that parallel list. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not a gentle shower, but thunder. This antithesis is happening again. We don't need light. We need something much stronger and worse than that. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and an earthquake. So he wants to shake the nation's conscience. The conscience of the nation must be roused. Again, personifying the whole nation as just one person's head and heart. And then this is probably the most famous section right here. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license. Again, this is antithesis over and over again. Your national greatness, swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. And he goes on and on to list it. And so he ends really, really powerfully and almost in an accusatory manner when he says, go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world. So go anywhere that they have slaves. But he's saying that he would argue that America reigns in its cruelty without rival. No one is as cruel as America. All right. So in class, we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be breaking this down, and we're going to talk about the modern parallels we see to this today. Have a great day.